Join me today while we make this strawberry rhubarb tart that is super delicious. It has a yummy shortbread crust, it's low sodium, and it's easy treat. Makes 9 servings and everybody's gonna love it. So let's get started. Hey there, I'm Mathia Ford with Renal Diet HQ, and I wanna ask you a question. What's red, tart, and tastes delicious? That's right, it's a strawberry rhubarb tart, and we're making a kidney-friendly version today. First, I want to go through the ingredients with you. For the base of the strawberry rhubarb tart, we're going to have flour, butter, egg, a little bit of baking powder, and some cornstarch, and then we have sugar. For the filling, which is the yummy part, the strawberry and the rhubarb, I've diced the rhubarb up pretty small. I had to buy frozen rhubarb. You can find it at Sprouts here locally in Oklahoma, but if it's not in season and you still want to make the tart. And then we have sugar and cornstarch, and that makes the filling. And then we have the crumble topping. We have flour, sugar, and some more unsalted butter. So let's get started. We are going to dice up the butter and make the streusel topping first. We've already turned on the oven to 350 degrees, and we're gonna make this delicious tart. Okay, we're using a 9 by 9 inch pan, and I wanna show you how I do the parchment paper. So first I spray it with pan spray so the parchment paper will stick. And then I've placed this on the parchment paper and I cut it to the right size. And then I trimmed the edges. I made a little diagonal cut in the edges so that I stick it in the pan and it kind of makes that corner so it's not bumpy and it'll fold over. And then any extra cutting I might. So there you see I kind of have a nicely placed parchment. It makes it easy to get the tart out later. Then I just kind of cut off the extra little nibbles. It's not necessary for you to do this, but it does help quite a bit with getting the tart out later. Okay, the next step, we're going to dice up the butter and mix together the sugar and flour and make the crumble topping. So I'm taking the butter and I literally cut it into like quarters. You want it to be as cold as possible. Helps you cut it. And you try to make the pieces as little as possible. All right, so we are going to add the flour and the sugar. And then this butter that I've diced. You can see that's what it looks like. I'm just going to take my hands and go in and make it as mixed together as possible. The goal is for it to look like a little bit of cornmeal or sand. This is the crumbly topping for on top. I'm literally just rubbing the butter pieces that are larger and kind of making them into smaller pieces. If you watched our pie crust video, you saw me doing something similar to this to make the pie crust. So that's kind of what it looks like. It's just a loose crumbly topping. Okay, now we're going to make the base, which is more like a shortbread crust. So I like to microwave the butter to make it kind of halfway melty. I'm just going to add the flour, sugar, cornstarch, and baking powder. Cornstarch in this recipe really helps to hold the things together and to thicken things up. I'm going to add the butter and our egg. And it's really simple. You just kind of mix it together. I'm gonna get my hands in here in just a minute as soon as I get it kind of blended. Doesn't require a lot of working with the dough. Just get it all so it sticks and all the flour and everything is mixed together well. We're going to take the dough that we've made and we're going to spread it in the bottom of the pan and a little bit on the sides. It makes a really thick base if you don't go up the sides with it. And this just takes a few minutes. With the baking powder, it rises a little, so that's what makes it a little thicker. There's what it looks like with it kind of on the sides. And then all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go around and poke the bottom. This keeps it from being too puffy, keeps the air. You're gonna do it along the sides too. Keeps the air from making pockets. Just makes an evener crust. So that's our crust. That's ready to go. Let's make the strawberry rhubarb mixture. Pour it in there, do our topping, and get ready to bake it. I'm just gonna use the same bowl that we made the dough in, and I'm just putting the rhubarb, the strawberries. Did you ever eat rhubarb as a kid? My grandmother made rhubarb pie, so delicious. I love rhubarb, but with the strawberry, it makes it sweeter, so you don't have that tartness of the rhubarb. And this is the cornstarch and the sugar. The cornstarch helps it to kind of gel together and makes it so the crust doesn't get soggy. And there's not a lot of sugar because the strawberries contribute a decent amount of sweetness. Just make sure everything gets coated. This recipe has fairly simple ingredients. Should be easy to make any time of the year because you can get rhubarb frozen. So we're just going to pour this into our crust. Kind of spread it out so it's even. So we kind of have it even. And then we're just going to sprinkle this crumble topping on top. This is going to brown up and make it nice and crispy. I try to make it pretty even. And then I just spread it out to the edges so that everything kind of has that crumble topping coated. And then I kind of press it down a little bit so it stays in there. And that's what it looks like before we go put it in the oven. We're going to put it in the oven for 50 to 60 minutes and bring it out and have a taste. So let's put it in the oven. Okay, I took the tart out of the oven a couple minutes ago. This is what it looks like when it's done. Let's cut into it and have a bite. All right, let's cut into the strawberry rhubarb tart and have a bite. It's 9 servings, so you just kind of cut the tart into 9 equal size pieces. I knew it was done because I saw some bubbling on top. So full disclosure, the recipe calls for you to pre-bake the crust for about 15 minutes before you start putting the strawberry and rhubarb mixture in there. I did not do that and it turned out just fine. So you can either pre-bake the crust or I don't think you have to. All right, I'm gonna have a bite. It's very hot, so it might take me a second because it's really still steaming. Oh, That is delicious. The crust is not too thick. And the little bit of streusel on top, that rhubarb gives a little bit of tartness. And the shortbread crust, hot. I just couldn't wait. So it's got the crunch from the streusel. It's got the tartness and the sweetness from the strawberry and the rhubarb. Shortbread crust, it's that dry but delicious. And you can see it's not super thick. And then you have the edge. Just a little bit brown, but it's, oh, that's a little bit of sweetness too. That is good. This whole thing is good.